We definitely know that she's a girl.
So I mean, she could obviously lay eggs at any point. She wouldn't have to have a companion to lay eggs, but you'd obviously have to bear in mind that if you did get a male, there is that risk. So you have to be really, really on it with like hormones. Like sometimes you may not be able to cuddle her like that because that might be enough to trigger that. Maybe you have to just take a little step back and we can just have like head scritches instead, or we just have to look at the diet, maybe increase the sleep, have blackout blinds. There's so many different things, and we have to like really make sure that we're watching the guys in there and seeing if we see any kind of funky business going on. We're like, okay, we need to take it up a notch and go into like extreme mode, because obviously the last thing you want is going to be eggs and that sort of thing, because it's not good.
But since we're talking about egg laying, I'm really curious because this is going to be a learning curve for me. And I was chatting with another bird mom the other day, actually, because she's like sending me pictures that her bird laid eggs. And I was like, oh my gosh. So what do you do? Do you take them away? Does she get angry? I've seen all these parrot stores sell these fake eggs. So if Mia was to lay an egg, what do I do?
it I mean, it kind of depends how she responds to it. Some birds will lay one egg and they'll be like, what happened? And then they won't show any interest, in which case you can take the egg out,
Did
be
that
like,
come
let's do
out
that
of
again.
me?
Yeah. um because you want to be avoiding egg laying at all costs. However, if it's a bird who's decided to nest, once they start egg laying, they're going to continue until they've got their clutch out of their system. In an ideal world, we'll take the egg away and then that will suddenly tell them, oh, there's no point laying any eggs. But that's not how their biology is working. Once the process starts, you kind of have to work through it. So the best thing to do is increase the amount of calcium they have access to in natural forms. So nice leafy greens, chia seeds are full of calcium, almonds, just try and get as much calcium in. We also recommend offering like some plain scrambled or boiled egg, because there'll be protein and some calcium, only just during that time or during molting, not every day or anything like that. So increasing the calcium, and also using the dummy eggs, like you said, so using fake eggs. So the best way to do it is when a bird lays an egg, take the real egg out and put two fake eggs in, because when you put in an extra one, it's going to end up tricking their body into laying less eggs because they think that they're almost full with their clutch. Now, it's not foolproof. Some birds will just lay loads of eggs, and that's obviously, we want to avoid that. But if you put an extra one, don't like flood the nest of eggs, because then they're going to get confused. But if we can try and stop the amount of eggs that are going to be laid, that's the better option. And then just making sure they have access to food and water easily, that they are, coming out and still interacting if they want to, still being part of the action. And then once you are over that cycle where they're like, okay, I'm not interested in the eggs anymore, that's fine, remove everything and then go back to strict hormone management, because we want to be avoiding eggs at all costs, because they are extremely demanding on the body. They don't need to lay eggs to be happy. And also it comes with significant health risks when they do lay eggs. So we want to avoid it as much as possible. It's not always possible, and we try our very best, but there are lots of different ways that you can try and reduce the likelihood of eggs.
And at what age would I expect a potential egg? Because she's only 2 years old.
Yeah. So
So she's reached her sexual maturity, I think, or
yeah.
up to
So
4 years old with conures, right?
it really depends on different species. Most connies will have reached sexual maturity about that age, but there have been some birds, and again, it comes down to dodgy breeding, where they can actually lay eggs a lot sooner than that. And again, if they're laying eggs like really early, that's even more of a risk factor. So we don't want any eggs. We don't need any more babies. There's so many babies looking for homes. So we want to be just being really mindful to try and stop it before it happens. But obviously, when it does happen, we want to make sure they're getting plenty of sustenance, nutrition, and calcium, and also just making sure that they are comfortable, and we're trying to replace those eggs where we can.
And how can someone avoid egg laying? Like what are your let's do top 3 tips.
Oh, top three. Diet. Again, having a really healthy diet, balanced diet that's not overabundant. You don't want to feed your bird so much stuff. My birds are being really noisy, you can probably hear them.
I hear
You want to
them.
be getting the sleep
Yay!
schedule
Hi,
sleep schedule right.
birds.
So you want to make sure they're having a minimum of about 12 hours of opportunity to sleep. They're not going to sleep for 12 hours, but if we can give them enough darkness, again, for most birds, it will kind of tell them it's not breeding season. You can up that to 14 hours for a week if they are being particularly hormonal. but also make sure you are interacting with your bird in an appropriate way. So you can kind of, cup your bird, and if they're happy with that, then that's fine, but you don't want to be stroking your bird all over, because you're basically simulating the act of birdie love, and we don't want that. We're friends here, we're not anything more than that. So you can hold them, you can cup them if they're okay with it, but if you do start seeing hormonal behavior come up, then just reduce it for a bit and just go for head scritches, and then you can increase some of that at another point. So there's so many different things that you can do to try and reduce the likelihood of hormonal behavior, but that's just a few of them.